everyone, welcome to another episode of Arena Talks. Today we will talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and my guest today is Peter Sheffer. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a fictional superhero team created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They have appeared in 6 feature-length films since their debut. The first film was released in 1990 at the height of the franchise's popularity. Despite mixed reviews from critics, it was a commercial success that garnered 2 direct sequels: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze in 1991, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 in 1993, both of which were modest successes. During the arrival of the franchise, prompted by the successful 2003-2009 TV series, a separate computer-generated images CGI film titled TMNT was released in 2007. A 5th movie by Paramount Pictures was released in 2014 and served as a reboot to the live-action films. A sequel, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, was released in 2016 and was the first film in the franchise to be considered financially unsuccessful. Of course, we all know about the comics, the cartoons, the action figures, and the video games they brought out, and of course, till this day, the Turtles are the heroes of young children and adults. There are also people who like to dress up like them. In most versions, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are created when 4 baby turtles are exposed to radioactive ooze, transforming them into humanoids, and they fight evil in New York City, where they reside in the sewers. Leonardo, the leader, is the most disciplined and skilled turtle. An expert swordsman, he wields 2 katanas and wears a blue bandana. Raphael, the strongest and most reckless turtle, wears a red bandana and uses a pair of sai. Donatello uses his intellect to invent gadgets and vehicles. He wears a purple mask and uses a bow staff. Michelangelo is in the least disciplined and most fun-loving turtle, and is usually portrayed as the most agile. He wears an orange bandana and uses nunchucks. Splinter is a mutant rat who is in the wise adoptive father of the turtles and teaches them ninjutsu. In some iterations, he was once the pet rat of Ninja Master Hamato Yoshi. In others, he is a mutant Yoshi. The Turtles are assisted by April O'Neil, who is variously depicted as a news reporter, lab assistant, or genius computer programmer. In most versions, she is pursued romantically by Casey Jones, a hockey mask-wearing villagine who usually becomes an ally of the Turtles. The Turtles' nemesis is the Shredder, who leads the criminal ninja clan known as the Foot. His real identity is usually the ninja Oroku Saki. In most versions, the Shredder's second in command is Karai, a skilled martial artist. In some iterations, she is the Shredder's daughter. The Shredder allies with Baxter Stockman, a mad scientist, and Krang, an alien warlord. Krang was introduced in the original animated series and was inspired by the Utrom race from the comics. Also created for the series were the Shredder's buffoonish henchmen Bebop and Rocksteady, a mutant rhinoceros, and Warthog. So, guys, let me introduce you to my guest, Peter. Hello, Peter.
Hi there, Orinda. Hi.
How are you doing?
Uh, I'm doing fine. Yeah, I'm a bit busy, but it's always the case. So it's nothing new. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm looking forward to talk about well, what are we gonna talk about, Orinda?
Of course, it's the mutant Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, Ninja Turtles. So, for short, I
Yeah,
always say the Turtles, and everyone will probably know on
yeah.
who
There's
I
not a lot
talk
of
about.
people that say all the entire title. I think most of the time it's Turtles. Yeah, or Ninja
No,
Turtles. Ninja
yeah,
Turtles is something I use often as well, personally.
yeah,
Yeah,
this is
but
of course,
mostly turtles. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably one of the popular franchises for old and young people, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's one of the few that spans so many generations from the 80s on up until now. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not only that, it's also like everyone is always uh, they're so popular that it's not strange if you are a fan of it or like something about it. Of course, we know it's know all the existence of comics and cartoons and the movies, and of course the
There's a lot of media and stuff out there, and has always been up until when it started around the 80s or something. I believe late 80s, and yeah, up until now, which is amazing, actually. Um, yeah, yeah, and indeed, yeah. Well, it is a good point you make. It it's not you're not weirdly looked upon if you because it's so generally known and liked in general by a lot of people. Of course, not by everyone, but there's always a sour puss out there who's only interested in soccer or something.
well when
Probably
I
no one listening to this show.
well the the fun part of turtles also is I noticed that there are a lot of, especially in the comics, there are a lot of messed up mixes of, for example, the turtles and the Power Rangers.
Yeah, I did not know this, to be honest.
It's really
So
funny. It's really funny. They are even having action figures of being that cross. So, uh, the
I
turtles
like
will.
crossovers, by the way. I have a soft spot for them. When because they're most of the time they're done by fans for fans and with because you could really screw it up. Crossover, you can ruin both, so to speak. But I'm very curious now. Now I want to look it up. Uh,
Well, it's I have been a member of a group called I think it's like the Power Rangers base or Power Rangers grid, is it like that, something like that, and they posting a lot of these things, and
it's funny. Yeah.
so you have to imagine that, for example, like Michelangelo wears of course the orange bandana, and they will dress him up like a
An orange Power Ranger.
yeah.
Well,
So
it's of course it's a team of young people because they're teenagers, the turtles, uh, and the Power Rangers are sort of the same. So yeah, I can see a crossover there.
yeah, but
And the enemies are just as ridiculous.
I think also like fighting for justice, fighting for the good,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
in one way, well, I don't want to say it's the same, but they both have like weapons that help them to beat evil. I think that's one
Uh,
of the great comparison with it, I guess.
yeah, yeah. But there are a lot of similarities there. I've never put them together in my head. Yeah, you have a lot of nerdy, geeky folk, and not to mean it diminutive or diminishing about it because I am a huge geek and nerd myself, but who do this kind of stuff, like what would happen if Thor when was versus Batman and that stuff. I never I fantasize a lot about all kinds of stuff, but never in that way. So there are also crossover. I'm a big Transformers fan. That's my main, the biggest youth sentiment is for me. It's I think Transformers still.
Mm,
But there are the Transformers and Ghostbusters. There's a crossover with the whole comic and everything, which is pretty awesome.
I think I
Um,
heard about that. That's yeah.
yeah, it's a very cool approach. Also, how they made up the story and everything, because indeed there's a ghost in the Transformers. Starscream becomes a
Mhm.
ghost, which is ridiculous, but it's funny. And so they really use that. So you know that it's made by people who know it. And so I'm really curious now about the Turtles, Power Rangers. But why did you want to talk about this right now, the Turtles? Because for me, it felt like a really good time to talk about it now. Or did you just do it because you wanted to?
Um, it's a kind of both because I was brainstorming what subjects I liked to put in my next couple of episodes, and I was really in, well, also I was in a nerdy mood, and um, my partner and I are watching all the Power Rangers in timeline now. So I was thinking, okay, I have been born in the 80s and I am an 80s, 90s child. So what can I bring back in a podcast episode? And so I went by like Knight Rider, MacGyver, of course, huge sentiment like My Little Pony. And I also came across, of course, the Ninja Turtles. And I can't remember if you can remember it as well. There was a children's program series on Saturday, and one part was Taylor Kids, and the other part was Veronica, and they also had those programs that was only for like the Saturday morning, and like with yeah, Transformers, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wings, and all those other sentimental um, yeah, series. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, why wouldn't I talk about that, because everyone knows it. And well, the Turtles is, like I said, it's still very popular between young and old, and everywhere. If you're going to conventions, there was always Turtles. If it is in cosplay or comics or yeah,
Yeah.
it's everywhere, and the merchandise is so big, and well, the franchise is very big. You see, it's like I said, they made a lot of movies, they made a lot of cartoons and
Yeah.
comics. So yeah, why not? And
Yeah, and what well, it's also current, again, because it's of course it's not constantly super popular. Like everything in the world, it has its slight ups and downs, and some bigger and some because some sometimes it's even more popular because there's a new movie out and it's really good, and sometimes there has been a few years that there's nothing or hardly anything. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But now it's really current because there's a new cartoon coming up, and there has just been another one, I believe. It's hard to keep up, and I'm not the biggest. I like animation and cartoons, but I do simply not have the time to watch it all.
mm,
So I miss out on a lot of stuff. But there are new video games out, and
ah,
there's one big one that has been released about a month ago, and it's called uh, Shredder's Revenge. Well, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then Shredder's Revenge, but
I
everyone
heard
calls it
about
Shredder.
that, yeah.
And it's in the full on 2D pixel animated retro style.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that's of course perfect to have me as a guest now today because I have my own retro game website in Dutch and my own retro gaming podcast. So yeah, and I didn't even put that together up until you asked it for the second time if anyone was available to talk about it. And it's really awesome. It came out in it was in June. I just looked it up. It was already out in June. Time flies by. But last month there was another new game released. Well, sorta a game collection, because there have always been really good Turtles games. I know even some folks that were introduced to the Turtles franchise or IP through video games, and they have made a big collection. It's called the Cowabunga collection, and it's awesome. It's
That's
I holding it
awesome!
in my hand right now, and it is really Cowabunga all the way through. It's the arcade game which never was released outside of the arcades, and which is really good. And they remade the arcade game for the NES and sort of. So they've made multiple versions of it, and they are on here as well. So all the NES games, even the Game Boy. There are 3 Game Boy games, of which the third is really good. It's a Metroidvania type of game, which is proper awesome. And it's made by Konami. Konami made most of them, and it's back in the day when Konami was really good, because Konami is nothing. It's really not that good anymore, unfortunately. But back in the day, it was a seal of quality, almost. And so I don't even know how many there are on there. I think 13 or so. It's really amazing, this kind of collections. So it's for me personally, it's super current right now. That the turtles are back in my life, so to speak. Not that they really left, but it's for me, it's really, I'm into turtles again. I'm considering watching a cartoon. I watched the latest movie, which well, we're going to talk about it later, I think. But shall we? Is it perhaps a cool idea how we were introduced to this medium? Because mine is a funny story.
Yeah, sure,
How
collaborate it.
how
Tell
were
us
you
about it.
introduced to the turtles? We got through the cartoon, like most people.
Yes, it was mostly to the cartoon, and that's
Yeah,
because
what you
I
said. Yeah.
I used to watch it with my younger brother, and he was totally into turtles because also he does martial arts. So he was very into the turtles, but also like what I
But
always loved.
was he already into martial arts when he started watching turtles, or did he started martial arts because of the turtles?
No, he was already into martial arts
Oh, okay.
and then the turtles came along. So um, yeah, it was in that, and it is just because as younger brother and sister, we always had okay, we are awake at 6 o'clock in the morning out on a Saturday, so we keep our parents sleep and we going to watch Telekids with all the all the children's cartoons on it, and Turtles was one of them. But it was nice to I did like the storyline as well with how they met April and of course Shredder and oh, what was their master called? Oh, I can't remember his name now. The little
From the
rat.
turtles,
Yeah,
Splinter, Master
Splinter.
Splinter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just for me also like um, it could be something of nowadays. If something chemically is going wrong and you got a mutant animal, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's. I really just enjoyed also to watch all those cartoons, and I must confess I'm not really a comic reader, so I don't know nothing about what's in the comics. But
Now I looked it up later on. I'm as much of a comic reader as I am not, which is really a paradox. But I've always wanted to be a comic artist ever since I was 8 or so. But I hardly ever read comics, which is so weird, and I still think it's weird. But well, that's the way it is. Uh, and well, also let's be honest. Back in the day, in the Netherlands, to buy something else than an Asterix or Suske and Wiske comic, which are great comic books. Let's
mm,
no mistake about it. But if you wanted to buy anything else except for European made, it was so expensive and so hard to come by. You had to go to a special store, and often it was not available because that guy could not buy anything or for everything, of course. And so it was tough as nails, or no, that's not the right saying, but it was ridiculously hard to get your hands on specific comics back then, and really expensive. But the Turtles comics were black and white, and they were really serious with those um, the eyes without pupils, without
mm.
irises and pupils, just white, and they were all the same color, and it was a little bit more edgy and a little bit more dark. I looked something up, and I read some stuff about it, and it looks really cool. But I think that the cartoon made it better.
Hmm.
More for kids, so that's better or worse. But it's they made it more approachable and gave it more character and more yeah. At least in my opinion. Of course, there are other opinions available. But
I think
you have you ever, besides the cartoons, have you because then you grow a little bit older. Have you watched the movies back then? Because in the
yes.
90s, early 90s, the movies came out. What do you think about those?
There are some movies that were good, but some were less, and you always have that. But
Yeah.
I think the what everyone would remember of it was the ninja rap with
Yeah, seriously? I did
I
not.
love that part. I really love that part, especially that the turtles are going to dance. And you was thinking, turtles who are dancing? Oh my gosh! And I really like that part, and especially I talked about it with another friend of me. He is also like a nerd and a comic fan, and he said, "Well, that's what I love about the turtles is just they did everything what you think normal uh, animals won't do or whatever. Like Michelangelo
Yeah.
too, eating pizza. And
Yeah.
when you mentioned like Kawabunga, yeah, my brother and I always said that in like a brother and sisterly way when we have or little victory or something, and we say Kawabunga.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
so
that's the surf teenage culture from which we weren't was completely unknown over here. I believe there weren't even really well, maybe some small movies, but there was hardly any media out there where we learned these terms and words from.
yeah,
The way they talked, and like calling a hot lady a babe. Now it's the most regular word in the world for us. Also, not that we use it constantly, but everyone knows that word. But it was first with the turtles that we learned these terms and the whole culture around them. Yeah, and that the fact that they're teenagers and they act like teenagers with
yeah,
that's one of the things I like the most about them. The the fact that they are flawed in that way because they are hot-headed, or they make mistakes, and they are reckless because they are young, and that's what's not many main characters act in that way. But because we're touching upon why we're going, because what you said, I'm starting to think now what makes them so awesome. But I think that's something we should answer later on. Well, let's shall I talk, because it's really funny how I came to the turtles,
okay,
because it
go ahead.
wasn't through the cartoon. The cartoon I liked, but not a lot, and I can explain why. Well, it was first of all the movie. The first movie came out in 1990, and I was 8 years old then, and there were friends of my well, an aunt of mine had seen the movie, and she was really stoked about it, and the posters and everything looked really cool and really adult for me, of course, as an 8 year old. And I was so enthralled by the live action movie, so to speak. And yeah, and the way my aunt spoke about it, how it looked, and she thought it was awesome. And well, it really played with my imagination. So when the second movie came out, which was uh, not even a year later, because it came out in 1991, in the middle of 1991, so it was around a year later, I went to the movies, and it was one of the first live action movies that I saw, not a Disney cartoon,
Mm.
you know. So it was one of the real proper acted action movies. Perhaps I've seen some schmaltzy kids movie or something, but it was action, and it was one of the most visceral experience for me, and it was the most visceral movie experience that I've ever had. I remember that I was completely enthralled, and it was a magical experience for me, that movie. And then later on, when you're 20 and 25 or something, and you read some stuff about that movie online, you find out that people think it sucks. And
Mm.
I've never read into that, because um, I never cared what anyone else thought about it. I still don't do, actually. But I was taken aback by it. Well, I have a 7 year old now. My oldest is 7 year old, and I see the same thing. He really we watched which movie did we watch? Home Alone 4, I believe, which was not a very good movie.
Mm.
And I always catch myself when it's not really good, when I start watching. Oh, the camera work is nice here. Oh, that's a funny vase in the background. Oh, that's funny how they approach that storyboard, the way they cut the editing. You know, that I start watching how they made the
Yeah.
movie, and start watching things in the background, and um, but my son was thought it was wonderful, and he has seen a lot of movies by now, even very good ones that are proper good. So yeah, I can, yeah. Who It's in the eye of the beholder, you know. I really love that movie, Secret of the Use, and I
Mm.
also love the way the turtles looked. So then
Yeah.
the cartoon came along, which was a little bit more kiddie, and I thought, well, this is not as cool and as awesome as the movies are. I still liked it in the end. I started to soften up to it more. But my first experience was that it was a pretty adult thing, which is really funny, of course, because of course that movie was also aimed at children. And there was chewing gum, a brand of chewing gum, which had stickers in them of the turtles for a
Yeah.
long ass time. There were stickers of the turtles in there, and I collected them. I have
I
never
remember
managed to
that.
complete it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have a lot of those stickers. I had a notebook where I put them in the right order, every with for really small pages, and so I stuck them on every page in order, and never got it complete. I even bought my 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 mom wanted to help me out one day, and she gave me a pretty lot of money. She said, "Well, okay, well, we'll eat the chewing gum anyway. Eventually, it'll be gone. So get 5 or 6 bags." And still, there were so many doubles. It was really impossible to get it complete, which frustrated me. Still frustrates me to this day, actually, to be honest, when I think about it. I
There's
hate
always.
I hate having I cannot stand it when I have things incomplete, so I rather don't have it at all. Um, which I think is recognizable for many people. So that was and then I started drawing the turtles. I started drawing those stickers, and that and I really got a lot better through those turtle stickers, because I liked that art style so much. So I really have to thank a lot about the turtles, because they really they sparked my love for movies more than it already had. I really became better at drawing because they motivated me. The stickers and the whole art style motivated me to draw more. And then later on, I found out when I went to friends' places with the nests and everything that there were also really cool video games. And there always have been good video games because nearly all games are decent to up till good. So that's my take on it. That's my yeah.
Yeah, the
And
funny
a lot of
part.
a lot of classmates were also into turtles, but there was always the cartoon and the action figures and stuff. And I wasn't really into action figures. I was Lego and Transformers, and the rest could go screw themselves. Even though the turtles action figures looked really good.
Yeah, it does because my younger brother always collected them, and he
Does he
even
still have
had
them?
he still
Does he still
have
have
them.
them?
He still have
Oh,
them.
that's amazing. Those are pretty. Those are worth a pretty penny nowadays, and it's so awesome if you've got your old original toys still. I've still got
Yeah,
my old Transformers and He-Man doll. I've got all my old ones still, but it's so little. It's not many people that still have kept everything.
the
It's
stupid
really
thing is
cool.
he wanted to throw away, so I told my mom, "Don't throw it away. I will have them." We have a lot of geek collections in my house, so I
Do
said,
you have them now? Do you have them?
they're still in the Netherlands, but I will be over next year, so I will bring a big car with me and get all
Ah,
my
cool.
stuff, including because my brother also had the original Power Rangers action figures,
That's
including the
so
makers.
amazing.
Yeah, and he wanted to throw away, and I said, I want to have
No.
them because we are collecting those things. So, uh,
Yeah, yeah. Throwing away is the last thing you should do because
yeah,
there's always someone else that you can make that's really happy by finally owning them or really wants to take care of them. Throwing away is a crime against humanity, in my opinion. Well,
yeah.
very
Well,
good
it's
that you did that. Very good that you did that, Orinda, because my heart would have sunk right now.
I know. But the funny part is you were talking about the early days with the video games. My brother also had one of the earliest video games from Turtles, the Ninja Turtles. And that was actually something I thought it was even a multiplayer. So we both played that together. And that was
Yeah,
really
which one
funny.
do you know? Was it on the Nintendo on the NES?
Oh my gosh, I can't remember it anymore. I can't remember which one it was.
It was most likely the arcade game on the NES. So it's at a slight angle, and you walk down the streets, and you fight against the Foot Clan.
Mm, yeah, that was one of them. Yeah, so it was really funny. Also, it was also like a bonding ritual for us. I
Yeah, yeah,
told you that before
yeah.
when I talked in your podcast about it, and but yeah, then I think the Ninja Turtles always have been uh, in our lives in a way because. But what I just also wanted to say is that the Turtles is one of the strongest stories with good vs evil.
Ever written or in for children's pop
For
culture?
children. For children.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I I've never thought about it that way because um, the bad guys are pretty interesting, but are not the cool. They're not the coolest. The turtles themselves are always the coolest. I think that's
Yeah,
also a very
true.
unique thing. More often than not, the bad guys are the ones that looks the most awesome and do the most awesome things. And of course, other opinions are available. But I really, really, really mainly love the turtles themselves. Of course,
Yeah.
Bebop and Rocksteady and Shredder are iconic, but they're not the turtles. Turtles are just
Yeah,
so
but
awesome.
I think it's the comical side of the turtles in a way of the bad guys like Bebop and Rocksteady. It's just I always had to laugh about them. And
Yeah, they're a
yes,
funny bunch, and yeah, yeah.
they could course, mayhem, but they were also funny. And it reminds me a little bit of Bulk and Skull in the Power Rangers. And
Yeah.
it's but let's talk a little bit more about the turtles themselves. Of course, we know them. There was a chemical something that changed them in these teenage mutant turtles,
Yeah.
and of
I'm
course,
glad that they chose turtles and not tortoises. Teenage Mutant Ninja Tortoises. It just sounds wrong.
yeah, it is. But it also happened to Splinter, and you know, I think uh, it's a low torching for like it's easy to understand for kids that the turtles are the good guys, and
Yeah. Um, I think so. Yeah, it's they form a team. I think they are a strong team. They look like a team. That's the strongest thing about the Power Rangers as well. They look like a team. They work like a team, and that's something that often other characters do as well. But it's so crystal clear with these two. Now I'm starting to see comparisons more and more, of course, because of what you started off with the crossover. Um, yeah, and but yeah, I'm really um, thinking about what makes them so special. But if you go, the four of them back then, when they were starting to really get some media buzz, there were articles which explained what cowabunga meant and the really the terms that the turtles used, because it was so mainstream. It had become so mainstream within a very short time span, that everyone knew what turtles was. That there was a bunch of mutated anthropomorphic turtles, but there were also articles about why they were named of Renaissance artists.
yeah,
Michelangelo, Donatello, and Leonardo and Raphael, and they are all four of them have different weapons, and that really spoke to me. I really
specialties. Yeah,
liked it. Did you have a favorite? Did you have a favorite back then?
I I really didn't have a favorite, but because they also have uh, every each one of them have something special,
Yeah, yeah,
and
and they exaggerated it a little bit more with later IPs. Not all. It's more balanced now with the latest one, I think. But yeah,
yeah, but I also think it's just and that is what it's so popular. I think it's because young people can identify them with themselves just because they are doing typical um, teenage things. And
yeah, yeah.
Splinter,
They do some. Michelangelo is the most popular one, in generally speaking.
yeah,
Which is understandable because he's the most funny and he does the most ridiculous stuff, and he's the Joker of the group, not the Batman kind of Joker, but literally the funny man. Yeah, Donatello was my favorite. I think for multiple reasons. I really like the bow weapon,
mm,
and I like purple back then, especially. And well, also because he was a bit of an underdog, and because almost no one chooses Donatello, and I always have a soft spot for underdogs, and so it was always Donatello for me. And in the movies, I think it was Leonardo tying up with Donatello, because I don't know, I like those two katanas, and he did the most cool stuff. But it's been a long while. It's one of those movies, just like E.T., that it was such a magical experience when I first saw it as a child that I'm afraid to go back to it because it now is sort of a not sacred, but it's such a magical thing in my memory that it's not going to be as good when I watch it back. You know?
Well, I think, and I experienced that for quite sometimes, and um, if you are a true nerd, you can watch it back also like uh, as a nerdy thing, and you won't judge it because it's you know, in the background in that time they didn't have those special effects or whatever, and you only can watch it as like sentimental or just you really love turtles or the storyline. And um, I think it's just like I said, with the ninja rap, that went wild back then. Really, it
Yeah.
went wild. And even my younger brother, he always was ashamed to dance, and he only danced on the ninja rap. So,
Yeah, I did not have a lot of I did not have a lot going myself with the ninja rap. I wasn't against it at all or something, but it never was such a iconic thing for me as it was for you guys. That's what made me laugh. So that's so funny how how you can have a different approach or take different things from the same medium or media. No.
well, I
Well,
think
there
it,
was also. Have you seen the three movies back then?
yeah.
The and you liked them back then.
I always said that the first and the second one is always have the best, but that's everywhere. There are not few of sequels after the first movie that are good, but I think it's just the love we had for the turtles in general, and
Yeah, yeah. The third one, I also really liked the third one, but it was also the age. I was 11 or 12 when that came out. I think 12, and it's it went for even more fun and more. It didn't take itself seriously at all. What we other movies did, but I didn't back then. It didn't bother me at all. There was a angry video game nerd did an extensive review a few years ago already, where he kind of trashed on it with respectfully because he also sees it has its own place in time and there's also a certain charm. And yeah, I understand why some people. But also, it's also sometimes we take stuff too seriously, you know. That Thor: Love and Thunder now, for example. Have you watched it? Just a small side note, but
no, I haven't watched it yet.
the movie gets so ridiculously much slack and hatred all of a sudden.
Hmm.
I've seen it, and yeah, there are some sections and there is some stuff that could have been better. But uh, to be honest, I have something like, well, what did you expect? Do you want to? It's a pretty good movie actually. There are some serious stuff in there, and it could have been more. I personally would have preferred that it was a little bit more serious here and there, but it's not that big of a change from the last movie. But now all of a sudden everyone is against it. I don't. But I'm not that kind of a sourpuss anymore. Also,
Hmm.
I respect. Sometimes it's not up to my taste, or I think there a lot of stuff can be better. But mainly try to see the good things in everything, and that's the same with those turtle movies. Is the same. I watched the newest ones. Shall we talk about those? The
Yeah,
Michael Bay
that's fine.
productions.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
What do you think of those?
It brought something back. Like I said, for me, it was like a side note back of hey, it's still nostalgic for you, and it's still super popular. And but I did like it, and I always have said those turtle suits were so good. And I think, yeah, I must say, it's just, um, it's not that I was thinking, oh yes, I want to see this. It's gonna be good, but it was like, okay, I would like to see it and see what it will bring.
Yeah,
And
if you take them at face value, just for what they are, which is popcorn entertainment for kids, with not really much depth, and with the childish Michael Bay humor in it, um, which which I don't mean as a compliment, but it's yeah, I thought they were better than I hey, my main problem is the way the turtles look, because I think they look a little bit weird.
okay.
Their mouths with their sort of lips. I think that could have been designed better, especially
Mm,
since they are the main characters, and will because they're in nearly every shot of the movie. I find it a really weird design, and I can see past that because it's not that much in Uncanny Valley that I feel unwell or something. But yeah, yeah. Also with the second one, I recently saw the second one about a week ago for the first time, and you just don't have to. I mean, they could be better. It's easy to make them better. I think. No, well, it's not easy, but um, it I think that there's a lot of ways that those movies can be made better, but they were thoroughly entertaining. They are very very well shot. The action sequences and set pieces are very well done. I think
mm,
Michael Bay gets a lot of slack, which is partially deserved, but he also does some stuff really well, which hardly anyone does. I always hope that he goes back to directing with someone that has proper directing skills, and that he hires Michael Bay for the things he is really good at, for camera work during action sequence. Not that every action sequence is good that he does, but he dares to do stuff which almost no one does, to go really big, and there's something to be said for that. And the Turtles are a good IP. Transformers also, but you notice when he gets carte blanche too much or something. You know what I mean? He should have someone on his side that says, "Well, Michael, I think you should make it less Bay."
mm,
Bay, Bay. He has a really tasteless way of portraying women, and his childish puber. Now it's more the puberty humor, toilet humor. It's I hate it. Also, the way he portrays women often. It's so wrong. Just. But no, I like them, but they are no higher than a 6 for me. It's a solid 6, so it's not really bad. But well, yeah, there's a reason why they didn't make a third. Uh, Now you hear that the ones that played the turtles were really treated very very badly on set, which is uh, uh, which is a shame, because they were the CGI actors. There are no rules because you have a different kind of role, so you don't have any rights, different rights, and they really abuse that up to the nth degree. Apparently, there were ridiculous stories, which is sad to hear. I mean, why? You know. Because-
mm,
and if you look at the ones that play them, for example, Alan Ritchson plays one of the turtles. I can't even remember which one he does, and that's the new Jack Reacher actor, which is in every interview just one of the nicest guys, And he said he was really really negative. He said it was one of the worst experiences uh, ever on a film set, and he was he had to do with the second one because he really didn't want to. But that also damages the movie experience a little bit when you know these things, that someone was
mm,
really
yeah.
abused and something. Well, but enough about that. Well, the cartoons. There are so many cartoons. Have you checked how many cartoons there are? It's
I haven't
ridiculous.
checked it, but I know that there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And
And the new one that looks a little bit blocky is not up to my alley, but it's nicely done. There are a lot of figures also out there. You know what also what I notice that it's in general the quality is pretty good. The
okay,
cartoons, the comics, the games.
yeah,
It's not all Hallmark super good, but it's rarely, very rarely that it really sucks. Have you noticed that also?
yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, and I think the Turtles is one of the franchises that is consistent in what they bring out and what they.
Yeah, and even though they change up, they try to renew it and they change it up, which is a good thing to try out at least, if you don't make it too ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. There are there's a sort of core quality in general, as far as I know, because I haven't seen every cartoon and every episode. uh, well, you haven't either. Who has, by the way? I haven't played every video game as well. I have collected quite a lot of them and I played a lot of them. But it's just well, it's many. There are many games. But yeah, like I said, most of them are good, which really says something.
Yeah, but also
Uh,
like it's just um, it will never be boring.
no, yeah, that's because the core characters I think are so good. Yes, shall we discuss what makes the series so special, or do
Yeah.
we have any other? Have we missed out on anything?
There were a
It's
few
so
things I
there's
still like to talk about. Yeah, but we can talk first why we think the series of the Turtles are that good.
yeah. Well, yeah, we've already said a few things about it because they work as a team and they are teenagers and they're just funny and interesting. I think those are all well, just like the core characters. They're an interesting bunch
Mm-hmm.
in every iteration. And Donatello is the nerd that invents stuff, and they go a little bit further with some versions of that. And but what I like most is the team dynamic that they have. That's the same with me with a good comedy series or a good. It's just the dynamics between that Raphael gets mad and that the other one doesn't listen, and Splinter lets them do he lets them do those not push-ups, but they have to do some sort of a backflip or something against the
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wall.
the back flick. Yeah.
The backflip and 40 times or something like that. And I really loved it from the first movie and first thing on that they that they really are a team and they get punished because they're teenagers. So the core characters and the way they are, I think that's one of the main things which makes it so magical. And the fact that it's such a weird bunch because it's turtles, mutated turtles.
Yeah, I think it's just because, like I said, they have each of them have specialties and characters that um fill them in like a team, but it is also like um, because they are doing um, teenage things, like for example, naughty things like Michelangelo, who has to do backflips and start with one and then doing one backflip, and then when Splinter isn't looking, he just counts.
Yeah,
Like,
so those group dynamics and the way they are as characters, as persons, that is just as important as the action. And I remember these things that you're saying. I remember the funny quips they have and the the interactions between themselves and the struggles and the positive things also, instead of the action set pieces, which are also a fun thing to watch and experience.
yeah, I think it this the one of those moments that when they are not on the job, they would be just so funny and relaxed and um, just being so the opposite of when they were fighting crimes and get justice.
Yeah, yeah. What I liked about the second Michael Bay produced movie, by the way, was that they really come out of the shadows, which is a common theme
Yeah.
and term because one of the games is called like that. Um, uh, but that they really have to be socially learn to be socially accepted and not seen as monsters and such, which it's a little bit on the nose, but it's meant for kids. But they don't go too far with it. Like we're a bunch of racist retards watching the movie. Some
Hmm.
movies really drive it all the way home and ram it down your throat, almost make you feel that you should feel like a racist or something, or discriminate. But there was a nice angle, I think, because it's pretty realistic. That that it would go like that, that they would not be accepted because they look weird or something. Um, I thought that was really nice. The way the characters were set up in the second movie was way better done than I thought they would do. Especially with Michael Bay's weird vision of what I said before, humor and everything. April O'Neil is still uh, nothing. I have nothing against Megan Fox personally, but I think it's a weird piece of casting. But I'm sorry, I'm going back to the movies. But yeah, those yeah those characters and the setting, also the city, the setting that they're in the city and they live underground. So that whole basic setup, it just works. And weird, you can make up all sorts of mutant enemies and come up with all sort of. They're not restricted to just Shredder, uh, who's kind of boring, but he's deliciously evil. Uh, in the and Krang, I never had much with Krang. Uh, I thought, what is this weird alien? And in the movie, I thought the same, but I also have a soft spot for those kind of weird stuff. Um, yeah, there's also one of the most iconic video games on the Super Nintendo is Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, where they really go back in time and the time of the dinosaurs and who knows. And there's also a toy line from the 90s where they are in a sort of primal, you have primal versions of the turtles, if they would have been living in the Stone Age or something. It's a really rare and peculiar piece of toys because there weren't any cartoons, and only the people that know the Turtles in Time video game reference back to it. Well, perhaps they were going to make a cartoon like this, like Turtles in Time. But it shows how many ways you can go about it. And that's what I also liked about Turtles 3. I also like the time travel bit personally, because there are also people that hate that shit. And if it's done badly, but it's just, it's not too restrictive and not too serious, but it also can be. So you can there are so many ways you can go about it with these characters. There's a lot of richness and variety possible, and they already did so. Well,
Talking about crossovers, did you know there is a episode in the Power Rangers that the turtles going into some kind of a warp thingy, or and that they have a crossover and with the Power Rangers. I will
oh, that's
send you
awesome.
I will send you the clip after we're done with the
Yeah,
recording, so you can see that that's really funny.
that
And
sounds that sounds amazing. I think there's also a TV series I saw on Netflix because a few years ago my son was in a turtle mood. Um, I don't know how that came about actually. I'm wondering now. I think through Netflix television series, and also Power Rangers around that time. I just noticed. Now you said this, but there was also a female turtle in the television live
yeah,
action television
true.
series,
Yeah.
and I thought that was pretty funny. There are also people, of course, that they are up in arms of that kind of stuff, but I thought that was pretty funny. And she was from another country, and she was raised in the not in the Japanese way, but I think it was Chinese. Well, there's there was a lot of possibility there, but there was a few episodes and then it was canceled, and I think it is also really difficult to keep a series uh, live action like that. I think it's really expensive. Also, with Power Rangers, they had a nice workaround by using the Japanese recordings. What a slapdash duct tape kind of way that they made the first all those Power Rangers that first seasons, those first seasons. Do you know about it? That they used the the footage from the Japanese episodes, and then they added they made the acting scenes with the actors on the high school and everything that they filmed in the US, and
No, I
so there
didn't
was
know
really
that.
that was completely and all those action set pieces were from the Japanese series. It was really funny.
Hmm.
It's ridiculous. You can watch it on the Toys That Made Us. That's
Oh,
so
that
highly
is so
recommended.
cool. Yeah,
Have you seen that?
yeah, I
Have you
have
seen the
seen it. Yeah, I have seen it.
Have you seen also the Power Rangers one?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so you already forgot, Orinda?
It's a
Because
while ago when I saw that.
maybe you shouldn't drink so much, Orinda.
I
You
don't
should,
drink.
I said, I was joking. I already guessed you were a non-drinking person. Well, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it's oh, I'm just looking it up now. There are also crossover toys. Oh, this is awesome. Not going to buy it. Not going to buy it.
He says.
No, I'm not gonna. I have bought. That's cool. A couple years ago, 5, 6, around that time. 6, no, perhaps later. 6 to 8 years or so. It's so difficult. It's ever since COVID, and since I've had kids, time is completely warped. I I
Hmm.
I I say a year ago, and it's already 3 years sometimes. But there were a re-release of the old uh, 80s 90s action figures from of the
I
turtles,
heard about that, yeah.
and there were just and I was going to stores a lot because of the Lego Dimensions. So I was regularly visiting because I just like what I said earlier. I cannot stand it if I don't have something complete. So when I started with Lego Dimensions, it's a video game with toys to life. So we had a lot of Lego sets, especially for that. But there was a Portal one, and there was a Ghostbusters one. There were especially the Portal one made me want to buy it. They really pulled me over, or pushed me over. How do you say it? I couldn't resist anymore. But I knew I had to buy everything. Uh, but there was also one of those turtles, really cheap. I think it was Donatello, also my favorite one. So I thought, oh, well, I'll buy no Donatello. And then I saw Leonardo somewhere else, and also really cheap. But then they were gone. And then I said, well, I want the other two as well. But they were still very cheaply available through eBay and everything. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, you get um, you got a thing with it. What's it called in English? A sewer lid
Hmm.
with their name on it, and you can set them on it as a display, so you can really put them together, all four of them, really nicely on a shelf or something. Yeah, really, really awesome. And all those new toys, I have nothing with that new look because I don't watch that new cartoon and I'm not a kid anymore, and I have more affection for the old look. They also look really nice. It's really properly and with a big ass bus with that caravan bus like thing that they have. What's it called again? They have a funny name for that car. I just reminded. Well, I don't know anymore. Well, yeah, it's so that there's the Shredder's Revenge game now. There's in 2030, 2023. There's another one coming, another series coming. Yeah, there's it. Don't think will we ever really bored with them. No,
No, they always can think something new.
yeah, and the old ones are also still fun. The old games are still fun because I'm
Yeah.
playing them right now. So I highly recommend everyone to try out at least the Cowabunga collection or the new one, the Shredder's Revenge. And a couple of years back, there was Platinum Games made one also. They made that one after they made a Transformers game. Um, what's it called again? It's difficult to come by, but it's still Mutants in Manhattan. Yeah, it's a very hectic. Also mainly aimed at multiplayer and everything. So it's also highly recommend to, at least to try it out. It looks awesome. You have a big ass boss fights which really have to work with all turtles together. So you switch between turtles. It's really amazing. They all have their own super move. So you really have to combine super moves. Then first you use Leonardo, then you switch to Michelangelo to do some special damage. It sounds cool just me talking about it. Am I right?
Yeah, it's now you mention it. It's is there any YouTube video I can watch
Yeah,
that?
of course, of course. There undoubtedly there are whole playthroughs which spoil everything. I think It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course. Mutants in Manhattan. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. Also, I wanted to. You said Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Yeah,
Did you
I
know? Did you know that that was actually the name in Europe for a while?
no. I thought
That's
that
why
was
you said
always.
that's why you said it
It
subconsciously.
was, yeah, subconsciously. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also it said so on the top, and then sometimes you saw something and it said Ninja again. The movies were Ninja, and I've always wondered this, but it was during the time when I thought that when they thought that for the youth and everything that Ninja wasn't a good thing. There's also with nunchucks. Nunchucks were also extremely shunned in Europe
Hmm.
during that time. It was almost as crazy as the Satanic Panic in the U.S. that every Dungeons and Dragons player was worshiping Satan,
Yeah.
which we were reminded of during last Stranger Things season. But it was also here the case with nunchucks. They were also removed in the 90s from. There was another fighting game on the PS1, which one character had nunchucks. You mean there are also characters with swords and all kinds of other weapons? But no, the nunchucks had to be removed. Really, absolutely media
Hmm.
zeitgeist ridiculousness. And that's also the case why they changed that ninja to hero, because they thought that would be too negative.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty innocent if you think about it now.
The
Yeah,
stupid
funny is
thing.
that it's a funny thing. We're already starting to forget about those things. Um, that it was ever called like that. When you said
Yeah,
it, I
because
thought, oh, indeed, those stickers of mine have hero on it. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Yeah,
that's weird
funny.
because I only remember that that it's only called like Ninja Turtles instead of Hero Turtles.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't remove it everywhere, so just for kids and for the cartoon, I believe. Uh, well, yeah, it's a funny thing. It's from the past now. Everything is ninja now, and with nunchucks, because they also, I believe, for the arcade game or something, they removed the nunchuck. But I'm not sure anymore. I did know that they removed nunchucks from other games. Yeah, as if a
Wasn't that
katana.
also that because they have to remove the nunchucks of Michelangelo, um, that he would have to learn other disciplines? I believe he had some with the swords and with the bow, right? I
Oh,
thought there was something like that.
well, the cartoon is known for um, for that they hardly ever use their weapons. There are also jokes made about that later on with other cartoons, and when there's a crossover that the old turtles meet the new turtles and something, and then make jokes about it to each other. Says, well,
Hmm.
yeah, you don't use your weapons ever. That's also very nice when they mix and they blend old and new generation. That's also a thing. Yeah, it was also on those stickers. I remember also there was a nunchuck removed that you just Michelangelo standing in a weird position, which looks even dumber. Well, yeah. Now, yeah, well, yeah. It's the nunchuck craze of the early '90s. I say look it up, folks. The internet is a glorious place where you can look up everything. Also, this kind of stuff. It's
Was
an
that
in-depth discussion. Huh?
what I want to ask? Was Donatello your only favorite character in the Ninja
I
Turtles?
liked all of them, to be honest. I liked all of them, but if I had to pick a favorite, it was Donatello. Back in the day, that I found it important to choose favorites. And Leonardo, which I said before, from the movies, I really loved Leonardo as well. But the two ones that are hardly ever loved, it's always Raphael and Michelangelo. It's funny. Yeah. I can imagine because those are awesome as well. There was, by the way, one other piece of media of the Turtles I really want to recommend is when there was a slight lull period a few years back, and they made a 3D animation of the Turtles. It was around, um, it's about 10 years ago. I think around 2012 or something. And
Okay.
I really need to look it up. It's just it popped into my mind right now, or I would have looked it up before. And that was a really good 3D animation of the turtles. And Raphael plays a pretty big role in that one.
Hmm.
So that's well. Let me look it up. Now I want to look it up. Uh,
In the meanwhile, um,
yeah.
what do you think of April Neil and Casey? Because they were becoming allies of the turtles and friends of the turtles.
Yeah, they're fine. To be honest, they have their own place, and speaking about wokeness and all that kinds of stuff, that it's always April that needs to be rescued. That they put a little twist on it with new things. That I think that's a good thing. The damsel in distress thing. Not that it's never maybe that is never allowed to come back, but we've seen that more than enough now, haven't we? Um, and I think it's cool that April she has a really strong character in himself. I don't think that she's very well fleshed out in the original cartoon, but that's just the time back then. But she's a cool character. I mean, she's a mechanic, a woman mechanic. That's awesome. And I thought, isn't he originally from the movies with the Jason mask? What was his name again?
Casey.
Casey. Yeah, Casey. Wasn't he
I
originally
think
from the
it,
movies?
I think he was originally from the movies, but
Yeah.
later on he became just also in a way like a big side character.
Yeah. I liked him as well. I liked him. I thought he was a really funny side character. His character arc is because he loses everything and he's just down and out. Sort of desperate character. That's what I remember. That's what I liked about him. There's a lot to be. You can really. I'm really curious now. Now that you ask this, and now I realize now that you let me answer this question, that there's a lot of potential, especially in these two characters. There's so much more
Yeah.
that you could do with these characters.
Well, I think also like they are the first characters that actually meet the turtles, and
Yeah,
the turtles
and their
are
friends. Mm.
very open to have them as friends and have them in their world. And I remember that special. I think there was Michelangelo and Leonardo, but I thought it was Leonardo who was went out at night and he would dressed in like a big overcoat and a big
Oh yeah,
hat and
yeah.
like he would. I think he was one of the serious characters aside like Donatello, I mean Raphael, to of the turtles. Not only because he was the leader of the turtles, but also like um, he and I remember of thinking Leonardo and Michelangelo are so the opposites of each other, but they are teaching each other also. Um, Leonardo could be more relaxed, and Michelangelo could be more seriously. And I
Yeah, that's the
think,
way it goes in real life as with brothers and sisters, and that you more often than not you make each other better and balance each other's weird character traits. You know, as long as you stay open for a little bit of change. Yeah, and
yeah,
that's really
because
what you say. Yeah, that's really the case. And they made multiple during the years multiple uh, head-on collisions between the turtles, and that they learn from each other. Like the one I said, the 3D animation was all about Raphael mostly, which was fun to see him in more of a main role for once.
yeah, and I think that that is also what makes the turtles popular because you know as human beings you can relate to that like brother sister, but also like brother and brother from another mother, but also like yeah, even friends would but had each other over it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, and every kind of relationship, if it's also work. I've learned a lot from colleagues how to do things, approach people, and how to not approach people. Also, what he's doing, I'm definitely going to watch out that I don't make the same mistakes. Yeah, yeah, and then we come back to that the best written episodes, content, media of the Turtles is uh, the meat of the story is what makes it really interesting is the character interaction and the character arcs and everything, which you wouldn't expect if you see a poster of
Yeah.
green turtle mutants with weapons. That there's so much depth actually in there. Well, I found, by the way, the movie that I meant. It's TMNT, just that abbreviation, the acronym of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course, and it's
Mm-hmm.
from 2007.
Yeah.
It's directed by Kevin Monroe, um, who isn't really super well known, but he has made multiple other. He's mainly a 3D animation kind of dude. He also made Ratchet and Clank, by the way. Um, but the voice cast of that movie was also very interesting because
Mm.
Chris Evans does Casey, and Sarah Michelle Gellar does April O'Neil, and Lawrence Fishburne is a sort of narrator, and a lot of uh, well-known game actors are in there. Nolan North, the famous Nolan North of Uncharted, is Raphael, for example. That's a recommendation. Most people have forgotten about this 3D animation, and I thought it was a little bit more adult-like
Mm.
in its themes and everything. It's a
Yeah.
6.2 on 6.2 on IMDb. I'm not really. I think it should be at least a 7, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just like
Well,
every, just like with a lot of movies on IMDb, by the way, and sometimes the other way around. You don't for the
yeah.
hell of life don't
Cause
understand why it's an 8.
the weird thing was I was making the episode script for me of RoboCop, and I was looking at IMDb what their rating
Yeah, the
were,
grades, the rating. Yeah,
the rating, and the first two were so low that I was thinking, guys, come on, that could be better. And
it's a 7.6. It's ridiculous. I'm just looking it up right now. 7.6 for the first RoboCop. It's ridiculous. It's a masterpiece.
yeah, but
Who would
also
have?
like, um, yeah, I
I
thought
think you know what I think it is. You know what I think it is. It's also because it has horror elements because it's so extremely visceral. It's
mm,
it's 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 so brutal, the first movie,
mm,
and it's just like every horror movie has a low grade on IMDb. There are some people out there that that take pleasure in watching movies which are absolutely not in their ball game or their thing, and they just give low grades. But I mean, the thing is the best horror movie ever made, in my opinion. It's an 8.2. and that's the highest possible for a horror movie. It should be a 9 or above, but that's the highest praise a good horror movie ever is going to get on IMDb. It's ridiculous. RoboCop, this shocks me. A 7.6. I agree with you, Orinda.
Yeah, and it's just like there are even lower grades in one of the four movies. So there was
Oh yeah,
even
but RoboCop 3. It's not a very good movie, is it?
no, but I mean, like I was a little shocked that it will get that low and exactly on
Yeah.
IMDb, and um, yeah, it's just like I
Oh,
think the
5.8 for RoboCop 2. No, I don't agree with that. Also, no,
yeah, exactly.
no. That's also, in my opinion, at least a 7. But not everyone will agree with that, of course, as this proves. That's very weird. It's yeah. I agree with you there. Yeah. We're sorry for the we are talking about RoboCop now. That
Yeah,
would be a
that's
cool
my fault.
crossover.
That's my fault. Huh?
That would be a cool crossover. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with RoboCop.
Yeah, well, who
You know,
knows?
you know what he should say then? He should say Robo Kawabanga.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
I would be up for a crossover, to be honest. There's also a video game, RoboCop versus Terminator,
Yeah,
which it isn't all that great, but it's also just the fact that they are put together is makes it worth it. You know, it's just yeah, why not? It's just actually a pretty awesome idea.
yeah,
It's
why not?
better than that ridiculously mediocre RoboCop reboot movie that they made. It was remade, that remake. Or
Hmm.
were you really positive about that?
Um, I must confess, and I have had that the same with the Power Rangers movie from 2017. I
Well, I
had
like that
to
one. I have a soft spot for that movie, for that Power Rangers remake.
had
That
to
movie.
watch it a few times before I actually could say, "Oh yeah, now I like it." And I
Now you
had
know what
this.
my problem is with the RoboCop. Sorry, I'm if I let you finish first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just needed to watch it a couple of times till I could say, okay, now I start liking it, and now I can see everything. And well, the reboot of RoboCop, it was I did like what they did as the RoboCop as the mechanic thingy, but yeah, it's just like, for example, the Doctor. I always see him as the chief from Gotham.
Yeah, yeah. But what story? What my problem is with well, first of all, the Power Rangers movie. But you can really compare those two. Indeed, you could. But the Power Rangers movie really tried to do something different with it, a little bit more serious.
Mm,
And there are a lot of folks out there that think it's ridiculous to try and make something a little bit more serious for the Power Rangers because it's all about the spandex and the funny ridiculousness. I agree, but I really like that movie.
I
It
do,
somehow
yeah.
gelled with me. I went along with it. I never was bored. I was really well made, well directed. And my son, honest truth, he was 5 years old when he watched it. He was silent the entire movie, and we watched it all the way up until the end. And he was really amazed by the whole experience. And he rarely has this that is that he stays silent during an entire movie because it's understandable. It was more than 2 hours or something. So it was a really amazing experience for me and my son. But RoboCop is just the first one is so darn good. It's such
Yeah,
a masterpiece from Paul Verhoeven with his dark humor and the message that he actually sends out, how we ruin things for ourselves, and how hard the world also can be and unaccepting. Yeah, and the second move that movie does nothing. It adds nothing. It doesn't try anything new, but just make it more approachable, I guess, for younger audience. That's the only positive thing I can. Of course, there are some talent there. There are good actors. It was well lit. The sets were well lit. It was well I mean, there are professional folks at work that you can see, but it's a complete for me personally, it's a completely utterly unnecessary movie. It's completely unnecessary, and it's a waste of everyone's talent and time. I would have liked it if it sucked even more, because then it would be easier to nag about it, because it's properly made. But with everything that I say, every single thing is done better in the first. That's what makes it so painful. It makes it so painful. And the Power Rangers movie is pretty unique because it takes a wholly different approach. If RoboCop, I'm serious, Orinda, if that RoboCop remake movie would have been a sort of a more funny, childish slapstick kind of movie, I would have been way more open to it, because they do a wildly different thing with the character. But no, they try to be as serious as the first one, but well, I'm sorry, we go way off track now. We were talking
That's
about the
okay. That's
turtles.
okay. What I wanted to say still about the Power Rangers movie, it looks like that the Power Rangers movie from 2017 is more like for adults. And
Yeah, precisely. It caters to a different audience, and it cannot be up your alley. But I really liked it. Yeah,
I liked it too, especially.
yeah.
I must say, and I talked about that with my fiance as well
Elizabeth
about
Banks,
it.
by the way, Elizabeth Banks is proper scary as a bad guy. She is really good. Uh, I didn't know that she could act so seriously. But
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm in.
but the only thing I thought that could be better was Goldar and the all the swords combined in the Megazord of the Power Rangers. That's the only
Yeah.
thing that they could be a little bit more better doing. But I
Well, I
love,
think that could have been bettered in the second movie, which never came.
yeah.
Uh, they could have iterated on that, or gave it an upgrade. Well, my son has the entire Megazord. Uh, we got all the toys together, so we can make one big Megazord
Yeah.
of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really big ass robot. To be honest, it's 50 centimeters or higher when
Mm.
we put it up together. Yeah, it's the first thing he ever bought. We he got 15 euros or something, and he won. It was four or something, and we let him choose something by himself. And I said, well, let him do it. Just let him do it. He's just old enough that he will remember this also. And my wife was all, oh no, he's gonna pick something ridiculous. I said, well, let him do it. Let him. Yeah, and then he can also find out that it was something stupid. Well, then you know how to be more careful the next time. Like and when you're four, that's perhaps a bit young, but if let's just try it out. It's not that we're gonna let him spend hundreds of dollars or
Mm.
euros. And he chose that big ass weird thing from one of those. How are the animal things called? Which they sit in, that those robot animals for the Power Rangers.
The Zords.
The Zords, yeah, the Zords. He chose the black one,
Okay.
um, with six legs and everything. It looked ridiculous, but I also understood that it looked pretty awesome for him. And then I saw somewhere else really cheap one of the other parts, and then his birthday came up, and he played with it so much, so he really picked out something he really loved in the end. He played a lot with those Power Rangers stuff. And there was really tiny Power Rangers with everyone. So you get really tiny ups with the proper scale, and you can put them
Mm-hmm.
inside the Zords. And it was really difficult. But I had to track down three of them through the internet, which was a hell, which was hellish. Uh, Especially the yellow one. For some reason, the yellow one was gone everywhere. The big T Rex, which is also a big ass thing. Uh, Yeah. So that made it even more special, because we then watched the movie, because he first bought the toys, and
Mm.
then we watched the movie. Yeah, it was really a proper good experience. Yeah. Well, to go back to the turtles, shall we round it off, Orinda? I think we've said
Yeah.
everything about now.
Yeah.
I really wanted to
I was
point out that
wanted to say
movie.
that. Yeah. I was wanting to say that, yeah. So, is there anything else you can think you would like to say about it?
Well, no, I think that there's still much potential for new games, new movies, new series, for newer generations to discover them. Uh, so I'm really looking forward to some new stuff, especially now that the old games are nearly all re-released. The 80 from the 80s and 90s, which yeah, they're back more than ever this year. So that
Yeah,
proves something. That proves something. I
it's
mean, we're
still
talking
being.
30 years.
Yeah, it's like it stays popular like Power Rangers, and I think it will still have a long life for next coming generations.
Yeah. And they're allowed for me personally to try out some new stuff every now and again, which they do, um, without condemning the old one. I also hate it when they start condemning older stuff because uh, it's because you're here because of that old stuff. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm looking forward to new stuff. Especially, I would like to see a AAA video game where you can really go, like Spider-Man, that Spider-Man game on the PS4 or PS5, something like that with the turtles. Oh, that would be amazing. Free roaming uh, through New York City with the turtles, so you can swap between them whenever you want. Kind of Assassin's Creed like, or something. That would be absolutely amazing. I
Yeah,
think.
well, who knows in the future?
I hope so. I duly
If
hope so,
maybe.
Orinda.
Yeah. Maybe
And
a
that
young.
retro that retro game that came out was also right up my alley in the old 16-bit animation style, 2D hand drawn sprites.
Yeah.
Also a dream come true. It's literally a dream come true that they made a new game like that with Shredder's Revenge. And Mike Patton, one of my favorite musicians of all time, has made the intro song to that one. He made a cover. It's a cover, more or less, of the old cartoon.
Okay.
And it takes some getting used to because we're so incredibly used to the original one, of course. So it's
Mm.
kind of off-putting. Mike Patton is from Faith No More. He's mainly well known from the 90s with that metal band. Um, and the guy is absolutely amazing. So that's one last shout out. Then we can run it up. Is there anything more you want to say, Orinda?
Not really. It's. I think we covered most of it, and it was nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, same,
So
likewise.
yeah. So thank you very much,
Yeah, well,
and
you're welcome.
I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, likewise. You're always. I will when there's another topic coming around with my Knights of the Retro Table podcast, or for the Dutch listeners, Ridders van de Retro Tafel. There's English spoken and Dutch spoken episodes, so I can ask you both if we're ever gonna touch on anything that you know anything about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will give you a holler. Yeah, you're always welcome.
All right. Dear listeners, thank you for listening and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode of Orenda Talks. The next episode is about book Rogers. You can listen, subscribe, and comment to Orenda Talks on the YouTube channel or join the Facebook group. I also like to tell you about my 2 other podcasts called Ghost Talking Track and Orenda's Book Club Smooth Jazz Tea and Books. Girls Talking Track is a podcast hosted by 2 female trackers who will recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek, starting with TNG. All the episodes will be recapped and chronically following. Girls Talking Track is also to listen, follow and subscribe on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or on your favorite podcast app. We also have a Facebook group and a YouTube channel. Every 10 episodes will be a video episode and live streaming so you guys can talk live with us and see us when we talk about the episode. If you'd like to comment on the episode or talk with us about the Star Trek episode we just recap, you can reach out on the Facebook group or the YouTube channel. Or in the Books Club Smooth Jazz Tea and Books is a podcast that will discuss books of all genres except the thrillers and horror. I don't like to read those. My perfect picture while reading a book is in front of the fireplace, loads of tea and smooches in the background. If you like to discuss with me or us the books we are reading, you can do that on the Facebook group or the YouTube channel. I also like to organize live readings and live book discussions events. Join me. Join me, read with me, and discuss with me the books we are reading. I will see you next time.